Today on the Daniel Baldwin Show, viewer mail and the war in Iran. Coming at you right now. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. Let's get right to it. Lots of stuff going on, as you know. Our viewer mail is John Zigmont of Seaford, New York, says, "Hey, Daniel, what do you think about the testimony of the Clintons?" Boom. That's it. Well, John, I have a few things that have happened in the testimony that I find quite interesting and compelling, and I'm not really sure what they're going to do about them, because I think there's the initial testimony and then there's the fallout due to the testimony. So a couple of things that I took from watching a bunch of it was that Bill Clinton, he doesn't exonerate President Trump of a lot of the things that he's being accused of when it comes to Epstein, but he does kind of side with him. So here's Bill Clinton, a Democrat, and they're after Trump at every turn whenever they can, even if it means making up things about him or whatever. And so for him to say Epstein never mentioned him, I don't know any affiliation, or Trump never mentioned Epstein in their dealings with each other. It's a pretty elite club, the president's and the former president's club. So you would think that with all the stuff that's going on in the files and everything, these guys would have talked about it, and maybe they did. So, but one thing for sure, Clinton supports Donald Trump in these statements that he makes. I thought it was also very telling, John, that they had the lawyer sitting with Clinton, and he's, thumbing through pages, turning them, and he starts smiling. And there's certain smiles that you can, based on the action that's taking place, you can kind of take with you what it's probably about. And he's literally going, like he's recalling whatever's on that page. And it supposedly were pictures of girls on the pages. So it looked like he was remembering it, actually, to me. That's how I took it. And listen, I don't think Bill Clinton needs my help getting in any more trouble than he's gotten in over the years and the things that he's been accused of. So, and no one's doubting either or questioning the statements that Bill Clinton was on Epstein Island and he knew Epstein. He did very, very well. 28, I think, times they can prove now that he was on that island. So, yeah. But here's one that I thought was really amazing. And, Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas. He's kind of had a bit of a good old boy, energy around him. People just kind of accepted the legends that he, had girlfriends and did things on the side behind his wife's back. And, she just grew to accept it. There's a lot of other stuff I could say about her that is legend in the White House, but I'm not going to get into that. That's not what today's show is about. But she has her own reputation for her sexual misconducts and her choices that she made sexually. And probably a lot of it had to do with how bad the marriage was, honestly. But she said she didn't know Epstein. She said she didn't know him. Now, there are pictures of them together, 3, 4, 5, 6 people smiling, posing. But again, I always try to liken it to myself. Have I gone to events and taken pictures with people and known everyone in the picture? No. Is it possible that I went to a party and I am photographed with someone? Yes, of course it is. Not to the level of a president or whatever, but I've had to take and been asked to take hundreds and hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of pictures over my career. So I understand that. I'm looking at who else is in the pictures, and I'm looking at there's eyewitnesses that she was on Epstein's island, that she went to the island, that she visited the island. There's also a lot of bizarre stories about what she did while she was on that island. And again, I don't know that to be a witness of it to be true, but she's contradicted multiple times in her testimony with factual evidence that people have that will say that she's lying. So I found her, remember the power of saying this. Do you, Daniel Baldwin, sir, do you know William Baldwin? Do you know him? Now, you're not going to get away with lying and say, I don't know him. If they say, do you know Bill Clinton? And I said, to the best of my recollection, no, I don't believe I've ever met him. Now, I have met President Clinton, and that's not something you would forget. Traveling on a plane to an island and knowing this person and contributions made to campaigns and real estate deals and sexual liaisons and blah, blah, blah. And the number of people, too, that could say to her, well, that's not true. I was there with you when you were with him. You spoke to me about him. There's going to be emails and messages that are going to prove that she lied under testimony. So how hard, how vehemently are they going to pursue that stuff? Do we really see a possibility of a former president going to prison for what he did? And it sounds like they did things that they should go to prison for. But there's a whole different level of justice. I just don't believe you're going to see that. I don't believe that. Now, could Hillary go? But it's just hard to imagine, too, with the power that they have. And I doubt she'll go. Sadly, some of the things that she's guilty of, and I'm not diminishing anything that Bill Clinton did with underage women, if that's true, and blah, but she's just awful. I remember, I've told this story before on my show. I remember being in front of a former leader of a foreign country, a Middle Eastern country. And he said, we were talking about Kamala versus Biden and Trump and blah, and he said, well, no, we would welcome Trump. He understands how we want to do it and what business is and so on. But that's not the one we were scared of. No one was scared of Kamala Harris. And, actually, they were kind of all licking their chops. And Joe Biden didn't scare anybody either. He could be bought and sold pretty easily through his friends. It was Hillary. He said, his exact quote was, "That crazy bitch, we were all afraid of her." That was the exact quote from this guy. This guy ran a country. So I remember storing that in the back of my mind. Even those guys, strong, shrewd men that, went through entire careers and ended up, going to the epitome in their homeland, that were just, they were afraid of Hillary Clinton. She was capable of such horrendous things that they knew she could do and she had done. So it would be nice to see her pay, from Benghazi and some of the things that she did. But you're going to see more and more stuff come out. Remember, these files, and they're acting like they care that much about the victims. They don't. The people that persecuted them, they don't care about anybody but themselves. And I doubt they're going to see any real action against them for their misdeeds and their crimes. They're just not going to. So, but John, thank you for the question. And listen, I want to hear your questions. I want you to write them in. I want to address, interesting stuff, poignant stuff that's going on right now, and tell you what I've been able to find out, and tell you what I think. So at this point, I want to ask you now, if you can like the show, subscribe to the show, and share the show, get it out there to other people. We can have a voice together, and we can talk about some interesting stuff that I don't know how much of it you get at this raw, but I try to put it right in your face. So let me tell you about the topic today, because it's going to be in and out of this topic. Not for a long time. I don't think for a long time. But the war in Iran is heavy on our hearts and on our minds. And so this is another show about the war. Before the U.S. launched its military offensive against Iran on Saturday, President Trump had expressed frustration with the progress of talks about Iran's nuclear program and deployed an armada to the Middle East, but said he had not said much about the reasons why the U.S. would conduct a bombing campaign against the regime. Mr. Trump on Monday articulated the reasons the U.S. launched its attack on Iran, bombing over 1,000 targets in the opening days, and what he has said he expects to be a weeks-long war. So I think when he says weeks-long, he means multiple weeks, but not a lot of them. Not a lot of them. In his first live public remarks on the operation, he offered 4 reasons for the campaign: destroying Iran's missile capabilities, annihilating Iran's navy, preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons, ensuring the regime can't continue to arm, fund, or direct terrorist armies outside of its borders. Well, so think about something. Think about annihilating Iran's navy. We're going to take out Iran's navy in less than a week. They won't have a ship left. We're gonna knock it out. And I wanna also say something which I'll mention later in my prayers, to the families that have lost loved ones, for our soldiers that have paid the ultimate price going over to this war. Thank you for your service and rest in peace. We love you and we appreciate you. Anyone that has served this great country in any one of its divisions to defend us, we appreciate you. We greatly appreciate you, and our prayers go out to you and your family. But I got to tell you something. I want to be very clear about this, because there are people out there, Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, Nancy Pelosi, Shifty Schiff, and lots of others that look to get famous or look to promote their way of life by criticizing the president. I want you to think about this, and Democrat or Republican. Had we allowed, under our intense surveillance of this country, there are very, very, very unstable people, when it comes to who the leaders are. Religiously, they believe that they should kill Americans. They should end America. They should destroy us. That's what they believe. They scream it in the streets. They scream it to get elected. They scream it. This is the powers that be in these places. If they got a nuclear bomb, God forbid a suitcase bomb comes in undetected on a 9/11 situation. They put a nuclear weapon on a plane, and they overthrow and crash that into a building in New York and blow off a nuclear bomb. Every one of the people I mentioned and every one of the Democrats that hate Trump so much will say what? This idiot, on his watch, we've now had a nuclear situation happen on our homeland. Our boys and girls aren't safe. He should have known. His foreign policy, blah, 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 fucking blah, blah, blah. You would watch this guy get destroyed because some terrible confrontation started in nuclear-wise or anywhere else in the world. Why didn't America protect Israel? Why didn't America protect Qatar? Why didn't, and just go on and on down the list of Saudi Arabia, this one, that one. They'd all be saying, where's our big brother? Where's our NATO champion? How come they didn't save Munich from getting bombed or some terrible thing? Or a missile, God forbid, being launched into a city and killing millions of people. They would all blame him. So again, they found another area that they're developing and enriching uranium. They have been given every opportunity in Iran. Trump has said, and his people and his communications to theirs, listen, are you sure you don't want to sit down and talk about this? Because if you don't, it's like the guy who walks up and gets right up in your face and you go, bro, back up. If you don't, you're invading my space, sir, and he pushes and his hand is touching him. And finally you go, I'm warning you. If you don't X, Y, and Z, I'm going to punch you right in your fucking face. And then you lay the guy out after he pushes you for the 3rd time. And is anyone going to wonder why the guy got knocked out? No, don't kid yourself. Iran had been told what they needed to do. Iran was warned more times than possible, more times than can possibly be conveyed to you. This is what's going to happen. You're going to get it. Please. It's like the bark of a dog. And then you like, hey. And then you get your head snapped off and you wonder what happened. Now Khomeini is killed. We killed him, for sure. As a Christian, there's a double standard to that in some ways, because it says thou shalt not kill. You're talking about a person that has the blood of millions of people under his nails. So if I could go back now, and I was a sharpshooter during World War I or II, and I know what I know now, would it be all right with God that I shoot Hitler? Just take him out during a parade. Boom. I think God would be okay with that. As a soldier for Christ and those things that are of Jesus Christ, yeah, I would take that guy out in a second. I wouldn't even think about it. Even if it cost me my life, I would have taken him out. So this is a guy who represented raping and terrible things being done to women and children and incarcerating people for no reason than that they opposed him. The people in Iran, show the thing of the people, this guy talking, please. Show this clip.
Thank you, Israel. Thank you, USA, for helping us out. We will never forget it. Never. They're going to tell you Israel and USA are invading Iran. They're not. They answered to Iranian people's call for help. And yes, we love Israel. We love USA. And that's just the way it is. Take it. Thank you, Israel.
This is what's going on in Iran all around the country. All around the United States. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, America. God, please, thank you. We're finally have a chance to be free. You don't understand, most people, until you've traveled abroad or you've traveled into Persia or you've gone to some places where, it's not equal and you're not allowed to say anything about it. Like you start mouthing off too much and you just go missing. Bye-bye. The Pinochet days in Chile and, there's governments around the world where you don't say anything. And if you do, you could be killed. You could be killed or falsely prosecuted for a crime that you didn't do, and you're gone, or you just vanish. No one says anything. God knows where those people end up, in some landfill somewhere. But this is one of those countries. This is one of those countries where, particularly the young men and women who want to be a little more progressive and don't necessarily want to live in the world that their parents lived in. They don't want to come up that way. They have ideas. They have things that they'd like to pursue. Freedoms that are new to this nation that, if we could help them put a regime in that would be a more democratic society, what a great thing that we could give these people who have, throughout most of my childhood and growing up, were considered to be dangerous to me. That, and that doesn't mean every person that comes to the U.S. that is from this region of the world is dangerous, but when you look at 9/11 and when you look at different things that have happened, when you look at multiple confrontations that have gone on in Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran, we're not exactly the welcome friends of these countries. We're not. So we're a target because of their religious beliefs. This guy was a murderer. This guy was a murderer, a scumbag, and he's gone now. He's out. And guess what? We took him out. Maduro in Venezuela. And this guy was awful. They're cheering in the streets. You can go ahead and Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren us to death of Trump with another illegal activity. And, and I'm watching Liz Warren just shaking her head and looking like she's, on Adderall all the time. No, Liz, that's not it. We took a guy out that if you lived there, you never would have come to power in any way. You never would have had an office. You never would have been heard. You're a woman. You're getting smacked around and told that you were a piece of shit your whole life. You'd have been in prison for challenging anything that you said. So all the crap that you like to stir up about Trump and all the stuff that you like to say about him in the countries that you're talking about, you'd have been killed. You'd have been killed. You never would have had a chance to rise to the level. The education, the lifestyle that you live, the money that you've made, none of that would have happened in either of these countries. None of it. None. So we defended that right. We defended it, and we took this guy out. Praise God, he's out. Multiple locations across Iran are being bombarded, and Tehran is carrying out retaliatory strikes against the region as the United States-Israel war in Iran entered its fifth day, with the death toll rising and no end to the conflict in sight. Well, I listed the things that the president has said, he's outlined. And by the way, Marco Rubio is just, if this guy isn't presidential. So the idea that Rubio joins JD as the vice president under Vance, and Vance gets 2 terms with Rubio then stepping in, and we sweep out the next 16 years. That's got a great ring to it, doesn't it? But does Rubio not look amazingly presidential? The guy's sharp. He has concise, direct answers to questions, and he has a plan. He looks like an up-and-comer for the presidency. Let's see how long it takes him before he decides he wants to run. The war with Iran, President Donald Trump told CNN, the big wave of the U.S. attack on Iran is yet to come. Trump laid out his war objectives for reporters, saying he wanted to destroy Iran's missile capabilities, annihilate its navy and its nuclear ambitions, and stop its army militant groups. On the ground, Iran and its proxies are continuing to strike U.S. allies in the Gulf, with the U.S. embassy in Saudi Arabia hit by suspected Iranian drones. So Iran has decided, instead of manning up with all of its ways that it was warned not to be and do, and they're not going to fight against the U.S. and against our air attacks. They're going to bomb innocent other countries that have been friendly with us in order to retaliate. What a fucking pussy way to do it. You know, I mean, we warned you, and this goes to show you that the Iranian government, the powers that be, that don't care about its people. You know, when you advertise that a school got hit or whatever, like we loaded up and we wanted a school or any young children, anyone to be killed. These are casualties of war. They're terrible. We don't want them. We'd like to surgically remove people, but they put these hiding places by schools and hospitals on purpose. This is how sick they are. They want it to be on the news that we're this murderous horde that came in to bomb their country. And the Democrats have a field day with it. They do. They have a field day saying all this stuff. If we don't go over, if we didn't stop this regime from developing nuclear weapons, the outcome of this could have been so much worse. Could you imagine lobbing a nuclear, if you got one nuclear weapon from some truck or boat, and you somehow built it here, whatever you got to do to get it done, or sent it by some ship and hit Chicago, hit Philadelphia, hit New York, Los Angeles, or if you took a border country. It's not as far-fetched as you think. It could be done. Yet there's no way we could allow these people to have that kind of power, weaponry-wise. No way. So, unlike others, Trump stepped in. He freed him up in Venezuela. He's freeing him up in Iran. And I will tell you that I look forward to the potential of better relations with Iran. I don't think it's going to happen right away, but I look forward to it. The people of Iran are super grateful. They're super grateful that we're there and that we're doing what we have to. And I don't think, I think the president is accurate. I think you're going to see this, we're day 5. In a month, there are going to be people over there that are going to be dying to make a deal. And here's the problem. If the president takes his foot off the throttle now, because suddenly they see what's inevitable, and they say that they want to make a deal. We're sorry, we should have listened. We want to make a deal now. I'm not sure that, another week or two of really taking the people out that we need to take out, taking out the manufacturing facilities, the military facilities. We need to leave them now. We've gone ahead and started it. It would be like entering a boxing match, and as you start to dominate, you throw your hands up. Hey, I'm beating them up too much. No, that's not the way it usually goes. Now you go for the knockout. So I think we're there. I think you're going to see, like Trump said, there's going to be a few days where they just really let them have it. And then we can start negotiations, go to the table with some very stringent, we need to have inspections when we want them. Here's one of the other problems. As we see, satellites are able to show unusual movement of trucks and vehicles and things that would suggest, or, purchases of uranium or development and enrichment of uranium, which leaves a certain type of plume that can be seen and so on. So lots of investigatory ways that we can determine whether we think someone are doing the things that are indicative of developing uranium and nuclear weapons. So we're hip to all that. When we say, hey, we got a problem with this, what is this factory right here, outside of Tehran, up in the blah, 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 blah mountains, and a lot of activity there. The last, satellites are picking up movement of trucks and cars and, planes or helicopters and yada, yada, yada. We'd like to see that building. Oh, no, my friend, you cannot come in and you cannot. Why not? So you need to stop that bullshit right away. When they say they want to come, when the UN wants to send a group, or whatever, you just go, if you're not doing anything, why wouldn't you just say, yeah, okay. It's the same for the guy who says, he's a suspected drug dealer on the I-95 driving up from Florida, and the dogs are alerting, and he's saying, yeah, no, I don't sanction you or consent with you to go through my car. As opposed to saying, I got a bag of weed in the car, and, I don't deal, I don't do this, I don't do, or whatever your story is. I don't worry about any of that because none of that would ever be in my car. But what I will say about it is, it does for the law enforcement or officer send up a red flag. Well, why do you care if I look through your dog and eventually you take the guy out of the car and you find out that he has 12 kilos of heroin or methamphetamine or cocaine or whatever in his trunk, and this is him doing the run. If he had nothing in the car, to open the back of the car just to make sure, or to have them, sniff around, do whatever they have to do to tell them, why wouldn't you do that if you didn't do anything wrong? These are men and women who are doing their job. If you look a little funny, if you look at whatever. So again, and there are people that will say, you're wrong and they shouldn't have to submit to anything, and here's my rights. I'm talking about getting back on the road as quickly as you can. You were doing 85 and a 65 and you got pulled over and now you look funny. So I'm not sure everyone's going to agree with me on that. Certainly anyone that's got something in their car that they shouldn't have in their car is definitely not going to agree with that. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a 500 times convicted felon, in Iran, that if we seem to think that there's something that looks funny going on, you should just open the door to that building and let us come in. And this is another part of the problem. They have not been cooperative about UN inspections. They have not. That has to end. That's another thing that has to be ironclad. We should be able to have people in the country for the next 10 years to make sure that all the things that we're going to make them sign and agree to take place and are enforced. If they don't do that, here we come again. More problem. But I believe swift action should take place. Swift sanctions. Close their borders. Don't let people travel in or out. Shut them down. If we took those types of actions, which people are criticizing this current president for, but guess what? There are so many bombs that were dropped by Clinton, by Bush, by Obama, and none of them had any permission from Congress. None of them had any. There's a great tape. See if you have the Nancy Pelosi tape when she talks about bombs being dropped and no congressional orders. Although we like to be involved, we would like to be informed. The lawmakers need to be informed about. But no, she didn't have any problem with. She was in office and didn't have any problem at all with bombs being dropped. I think Obama bombs 28 countries or some shit. I mean, he attacked all kinds of people. No one said a word. No one said a word. So there's a bullseye on the back of this president. There is, because he doesn't play the same games and he doesn't play them the same way. But he has the authority to do it, and he is doing it. And guess what? We're winning, and we're going to shut him down in Iran, and we're going to eliminate this crazy government from being able to have the power to drop a nuclear weapon or explode something or kill millions of people. And we're going to make the people in Iran free. So that's the way of our people, and we're going to ensure that takes place now in that country. So, Lord God, we thank you for your guidance and your protecting hand. And we are so blessed to know and be under the cloak of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And we ask you, God, to help these people in Iran realize, help the powers that be that make the decisions that could end this war, that it's time to put down your sword. And it's time to protect the people that live in Iran and protect more than anything, God. Please protect our men and women, our fighting forces, and the administration, Lord, President Trump and all those people that are the generals and the politicians that are working towards resolution for this problem in Iran. We ask for all of them to have your peaceful hand touch their soul so that we can get out of this situation as quickly as we can with the the lowest number of casualties possible. In your name we pray. And thank you if you are a war fighter for this country. We could never express to you our gratitude for what you do for us, for keeping us free. We are the greatest nation in the world. We are. So thanks again, and I will talk to you in a few days. God bless you.